All right, here we are, Studio J. I'm sitting here with Trey Charles. His new EP, Here We Are, is out now, and I'm super excited to talk to you about your craft. You are a nomad. You're a self-taught artist, and those are two things that you either are or you aren't. So I want to hear about Trey Charles and the journey that you've taken to get to where you are.
Okay, perfect. My situation of being a nomad started really, really early in life. Basically, my dad had a job where he would travel up and down the coast and stuff like that. He's a civil engineer, and just going to the random power plants and bopping around. So I've been living in so many different places, like from Florida to Carolina to New York, Alabama, all the places. Wow. So, that nomadic route kind of stuck with me as I got older. I always felt more comfortable on the go, in a sense. Right. But I also found during that time that I would make a lot of friends quick, and it gave me ability to kind of talk to people and meet them and kind of just become friends with people quick, like me and you.
Right. Yeah, man.
Right, exactly.
I appreciate that, man. Yeah, it's very interesting, because living that way in our culture right now, that's not typical. You know, the sort of whole thing is like, you do this to go and do this, to go and do this. Right. But you've been everywhere. Yeah. You've seen everything, And what's really cool, man, is you just mentioned that you meet a lot of people along the way. And I think a lot of people are afraid to live moving around like that because
instability.
The instability. Yeah. How do you keep those connections, and how do those connections shape you as an artist?
That's a good question. Keeping those strong is tough, but I think the relationships that I make with people who are kind of in that same ethos of like, you don't have to necessarily be close to be close. Like,
feel that.
Yeah, like I think that is the thing, like especially getting older, like you lose touch with so many people, but like the people that you can pick back up with really quick, that's the tell of a true person who gets you and connects with you and everything like that. Yeah. So that's the kind of mentality and mindset that I've had, like being this nomad. Like I make a lot of friends in a lot of community in a bunch of different places, and I think I just try to take that with me and kind of like sustain it and grow that community.
Right, and at the very least, you're creating new memories.
Yeah,
you're meeting new people. You're hearing new stories.
And bringing those old stories to these other people so that we can all find those commonalities within it, because we all have those similarities every time we do something. So
fostering connections and
exactly.
creating friendships and memories that last long.
Yeah,
it's really cool. I'm sure that serves you as an artist too, to have different perspectives, to share your own perspectives as you go through, and it's something that's really respectable that I feel like a lot of people don't hear behind the music. But what I think is really cool about you is when you listen to your music, you can cultivate this vibe, and you can sort of get to know you a little bit.
I like that.
Since you're putting yourself out there, and you can feel that you've been to different places, you've seen different things, you've talked to different people. And I want to come back to your new EP, Here We Are. Why don't you tell me a little bit about the message and the piece of you that you want people to connect with through that EP?
Okay. I love that. And I wanted to go back to Vibe Cultivator. I might use that.
Yeah.
But the Here We Are basically is a continuation of like the first project currently. So it kind of just has this reoccurring theme of being present and trying to be where you are in a sense, because like that nomadic lifestyle, like I was saying, it's hard to have like a base when you are moving like that. Yeah. But if you can be present in who you are and where you are right now, and then it's easier to navigate. It's easier to be present. It's easier to connect to people. It's easier to have conversations and find those commonalities versus the differences and everything like that. So that's what this EP was opening up for me. And it also made me think about kind of just where I was at in life right now with jumping into this music thing. Like when I first started, it was in 2019. Got into a car crash and really reevaluated like everything I was doing. It was a hard pivot, and I think and you didn't ask me this, but I'm gonna tell you this is where the
tell me.
this is where the period comes from. So it's like a hard stop, like it's Trey, period, Charles.
Yeah,
and that period is intentional, and like at the end of every song is a period because it's kind of goes along with the theme of just being that ode to when it was just a hard stop, and you have to really look at where you're at and reevaluate things and pivot to where you want to go or stay where you're at, but like just being present and remembering to try to be present.
Yeah, man, which is huge. And again, going back to earlier in the conversation, talking about how that notion sort of goes against societal standards, you know, like always thinking ahead, always the next thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to have artists like you and art, like the art that you make, and music, like the music you make, to remind us to stay present.
Yeah.
And I think that's really cool because I was actually going to ask you that about the period between Trey and Charles, and it's all through the album. It's on the Here We Are period.
Exactly.
And I think that's a really cool intentional piece.
Yeah. My little Easter egg. I put
man. Yeah. And I also want to talk about the other elements that supplement your vision, the photography, the long exposure, the
I'm glad you
the
see
videography,
that.
the pieces that come together to create one whole story.
Yeah.
You have a full vision.
Yeah.
And it's inspirational.
Yeah.
And I want to know, is that something that comes naturally to you, or is that something that you are, again, cultivating and putting out there as one unit? It's the music, it's the person, it's the photography, it's the videography, it's the story of Trey Charles.
I love that, though. Like, yeah, I'm glad that you picked up on that. It is intentional, and it's elevating and it's growing as I go. It's like trying to figure out how I want to tell these stories, but I want it to feel like intentional with like film and like patience and like just to have that nostalgic view, but also like a very current, present, modern view, because I think blending those elements of time and like space and like era, like I think that is a really easier way for me to communicate things, because like I grew up listening to soul music and also grew up listening to like Nirvana and Kid Cudi, so it's just like the people who you wouldn't necessarily classify as soul artists, but they clearly were coming from their soul and presenting their art that was very authentic to them. So I wanted to kind of play on that and put the music that resonated with me through my music, like the rock elements, but the soul elements, the R&B, the jazz, all that stuff.
Yeah, man. So I want to ask then, because like, you know, taking all of that influence, that's for someone who, you said you started doing music in 2019.
Yeah.
Which is crazy, man.
Yeah.
2025, 6 years later, I enjoy your music greatly.
I
You've got
appreciate
a
it.
nice following behind you.
Yeah, I do, yeah.
That
Grateful for that.
are here supporting you, man. And, you know, what would be your advice to somebody who wants to get into making music, who wants to do what you did and, you know, take that inspiration from their past and create something going forward? What would your advice be to someone who's just getting started?
I think, like, to do the things that that you feel authentic to. Do the things that, like, do the things that unlock reality for you, like the ones that are uncomfortable to talk. For me, like we were talking about earlier, like it's very uncomfortable and hard to talk about your emotions in a conversation, but it's easier to describe it or put the scenery around it or put the mood to it, because it's just like you see it in your mind way more vivid than anyone else can see it. So I think like really honing in on those elements of that and really trying to sit down and describe that to yourself or describe what you see would be the best way to convey that art if you want to make that type of art. And if you want to really do it, I say get out your own way and try to do it. 'Cause I think for a long time I was in my own way, and I was allowing others to dictate how I view myself, and it was not necessarily my truth and my happiest self. I was trying to imitate and just get through. So I think get out your own way and really be with yourself.
Yeah, man. Great advice.
Yeah, man.
Greatly appreciated.
Hope so.
Trey, I feel like I could talk to you for hours on end here.
Yeah,
I feel like you have an energy to you that if anyone wants to feel what it's like to talk to Trey Charles, tune in, listen to that music, listen to that new EP. Here we are, because it's great, and it's been great.
I love that pivot. That was nice, man. I dig it.
Trey Charles is going to be out at Artist Notes next week, June 27th, opening for Craven Melon.
Yep.
Hope to see y'all out there too. It's going to be a fantastic time. Trey, thanks so much for coming out and chatting with me. It's
dope.
An absolute pleasure and a privilege. Why don't you tell the camera where people can find you at, and we'll get to some songs.
You can find me at TreyCharles.com. On socials, it's Trey Charles. If you type in Trey.Charles on Google, it'll take you everywhere. But I got a bunch of shows coming up and some special announcements coming up for a continued tour with some very impressive names that I'm grateful for bringing me on the road, and would love to see you guys out.
Awesome, man. Thank you so much, Trey.
Yeah, man.
Looking forward to seeing your show at Artist Notes next week.
It's going to be dope.
Yes, sir.